If you're a pre-dental gearing up to take your DAT soon, there's certain specific tips and tricks that you can use to improve your performance on test day. And that's gonna help you get a better DAT score, and hopefully you only have to take this exam one time and then it's done and over with. In this video, I'll be going through those different tips, tricks, and strategies, as well as other things that you can do to make sure that your test day goes as best as possible and there's no unexpected surprises. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Andrew, the founder of Predenting Dental School Admissions Advising, where we help you get accepted to your dream dental schools your first time applying by making sure your application makes you shine as a unique applicant. So the first tip is about doing a test drive. And what I mean by that is a lot of pre-dentals and just people in general who take standardized exams have a lot of anxiety about the unknown. What's the test center like? What's the computer software like? What's the whole experience gonna be like on test day? And that's why Prometric has created what they call the test drive. The test drive is an opportunity for you to go to the actual Prometric testing center where you'll be taking your DAT exam sometime before your actual DAT day and immerse yourself in the exam day experience. So this is a 30-minute test run of a computer-based exam at the exact testing center, and you even go through the same check-in process, showing your IDs that you'll need, going through the paperwork, standing in line, all those kinds of things, so that you get that real test day experience and know exactly what to expect. If you're someone who would really benefit from that, or you feel like that could help kind of ease the nerves or do some of the anxiety going into your test day, that's something I would look into. You could sign up for the test drive through Prometric system. Don't just show up there randomly. Make sure you schedule that test drive so that they know to expect you. And when you go in to do your Prometric test drive, Prometric will actually try to give you a sample of similar question types that you're most likely to encounter on the DAT, which is really helpful. My second tip is gonna be to use your break between the Survey of Natural Sciences section and the PAT section in a really strategic way. More specifically, what you can do is during the Survey of Natural Sciences section or the break going into your PAT section, use that time to draw your charts for the hole punching section and the cube counting section of the DAT. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've got to check out my strategy videos for the hole punching section of the DAT and the cube counting section of the DAT. I'll link those above or around, and you can check those videos out because I have a really unique strategy that you can use to answer questions faster, but it requires you to do a little tweak with your whiteboard on the day of your DAT exam. If you're finding this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more helpful pre-dental content regarding the DAT, the application, and the admissions process. And if you haven't already, make sure to download my free DAT guide. I put together a bunch of tips, tricks, and strategies for each of the sections being tested on the DAT, including tips that can help you get a 25 or above in each section. That DAT guide includes a combination of literally interviewing hundreds of pre-dentals about their DAT and testing experience and what led to their success. For the third and fourth tip, I want to tell you a kind of crazy story that sums up both points. When I was a dental student at UCLA School of Dentistry, I was part of a class of just 88 students. And it was one of the most competitive classes that UCLA had. At the time, UCLA was ranked number 6 as a dental school, not just in the US, but in the entire world. So I was surrounded by a bunch of extremely bright and talented classmates, but there was one classmate who inspired me and a lot of other students in the class. And that's because word had spread in our class about that student getting a record high score on the DAT. And I'm not saying just a 99th percentile or almost a perfect score in one section of the DAT. I'm talking about a near perfect score or an actual perfect score in multiple and many sections of the DAT. So me and my classmates were expecting to be absolutely blown away by this student's intellect, and as exams started to roll around, we were blown away, but not in the way that we were really expecting. And what I mean was this same student was a smart man, but it became pretty apparent that he was not significantly smarter than anyone else in the class. He was not outperforming a lot of people in the didactic courses and was performing pretty standard at the same level as all of us in the preclinical or like sim lab courses. What I found out he was better at, and way better at than all of us, was taking standardized tests. And I wanted to know why or how he was so good at it. So I asked him. I wanted to know, what did he do differently and how did he perform so incredibly well on every section of the DAT, because I'd never heard of something like that. So what I found out was that he had two main strategies. His first strategy, which is my fourth tip, was get fast at identifying whether a particular question on the DAT or any standardized exam is worth spending the time on, or if it's better to come back later. And I learned that that's because most standardized exams purposely add in a few really difficult questions that are meant to drain your time and make it even more difficult to answer some of the easier questions given the time constraint. So that's the point. Master the art of flagging questions and moving on to easier questions that you know you can get right, instead of wasting valuable time on a really difficult question that maybe is just better worth skipping entirely, or if you have extra time at the end, going back to it. And as I've been advising and mentoring students and really becoming a nerd of the DAT, one of the things I came to understand is that the quantitative reasoning section of the DAT is not called the math section, and it is instead called the quantitative reasoning section for this exact reason. What I mean by that is they want you to reason, is this question and this problem worth my time to actually solve? Or am I gonna reason that it's not worth spending the time on it and solving? And that's also why so many pre-dentals never end up finishing the quantitative reasoning section of the DAT, and then getting a really low score on what can be a really easy section that you get a really high score and actually boosts your academic average score. Moving on to the next point, the second thing that my classmate let me know was that before taking any exam, standardized exam or regular exam, he'd spend time thinking about how prepared he was and how he was about to ace the exam and absolutely crush it. He didn't spend the last half hour scrambling through his notes or reviewing flashcards like I had. Instead, he told me how cramming more information at the last second and right before the exam is really just a recipe of disaster because of what it does to us on a psychological level. It just increases stress and makes us second guess ourselves and feel like we don't actually know as much information as we do know, which then leads to often doubting ourselves and even changing correct answers that we selected into wrong ones. And that really made me realize how much your mindset on test day can have a significant impact on your DAT performance. So that's the tip. Make sure to be confident and have a positive mindset. Now, this doesn't mean that you can simply think you will do well on your DAT and not study, and then all of a sudden you're miraculously going to perform really well, but instead approach exams with a level of confidence and a positive mindset and channel that energy, and I think it's gonna help you get the best outcome possible. So use his two tricks to perform better on your DAT. I was blown away by how simple these two tricks can be and his strategies, but that's really what it is. And if you want to know some tricks about acing the hole punching section of the DAT, check out this next video where I go through that strategy and what you need to know to ace the PAT section.